Last, but certainly not least,
Derek Ventura.
So season 4 has the most depressing opening yet. There's not a lot of episodic elements to Life with Derek, but there are the relationships that need to remain consistent. Like, for example, Sally and Derek are dating. Sally is Derek's co-worker from McSmelly's, if that's the name of the place. And Casey had just broken up with Max, her football player boyfriend, to be with Derek. No, I'm just kidding. No, that'd be weird. That's all you really need to know, other than there's just some weird sibling vibe checks that I don't really appreciate from this show. So that comes up a lot, but, you know, hopefully there'll be less than that. This is actually the final season of Life with Derek, so we have to keep that in mind too. Episode 1 is called 2 Kisses, 1 Party. And we catch Casey right off the bat at a really depressing spot, like her and Emma are watching Boys from the Staircase.
Ah, the fabulous sport of boy watching.
If only they had boy watching instead of square dancing in gym.
Kind of controversial. I don't know if girls actually did this in high school, but they're talking about how Casey is newly single, so it's confirmed that she still is not in a relationship.
Isn't being single the best?
And when Emma points out Max is single, oof, that bothers Casey a lot. And that's what the episode becomes about mostly. In the B plot, Marty is planning her birthday party. Little girl Marty, you remember her. And Sally is pretty much volunteering Derek to help out with it, which is obviously not Derek's thing. They hate to be a family, I guess. Because Sally is asking Derek why he can't just do basic things for his family, and he's like, because I don't want to, and he does not provide an explanation. If anything, he keeps denying it every opportunity he gets, especially when Casey needs help. He's also like, why would this be my problem? So the fact that she ends up volunteering him to do Marty's birthday is a problem. He's already insecure about listening to his girlfriend for most things, so this becomes a big threat to him, and he actually rebels for most of this episode.
Hey, what are you doing here?
I just can't get some chips.
So you're still not gonna help?
Meanwhile, Casey is trying to get over Max by meeting up with him and giving him all of his stuff back. You know how, like, in relationships, you would do that at the very end? It's kind of depressing, honestly.
I was thinking we could have an official breaking up ceremony, if that's okay.
But yeah, she's like, let's make this a ceremony for a breakup. And it's like, wait, what? That has to be, like, inappropriate. You could tell she still has, like, wild feelings for him, but it's just unhealthy at this point. At the end of their exchange, she straightforward asks him to get back together. And it's like, oh my god, Casey, come on, take a break.
Unless you want to get back together.
Which I feel like is more realistic to the teenage experience. I feel like people were more hesitant to let go or like missed it the second it was gone, so they would try to stay in relationships. That was just something very consistent. Meanwhile, Marty's party starts, and a lot of the family ducks out, not being able to help Sally. So Sally's throwing this party for a strange family, and honestly, I don't know why everybody's agreeing to it. Edwin's the only one that's in on this, that's enjoying it. And even then, he keeps getting hit on by the younger kids, which is, okay, yeah, whatever.
Welcome to Princess Marty's party, and you are...
Yvette, and you're cute.
Thank you.
We learned that Max didn't say no, he just said, let's talk about it later. So Casey's excited for this party, and she's just in denial about her relationship with Max, I guess, until he shows up, which, on his part, yeah, that's a little mixed signal, until you realize that he's not just to get back together. He gets roped in on doing a bunch of things, like him and Derek, and they're both like, why are we doing this? Neither of these girlfriends are worth our time.
Remind me why we're doing this?
Hey, my girlfriend tries to get me to do stuff all the time.
But Casey's not my girlfriend.
Yeah, and Sally and I aren't really speaking.
And becomes like a bros collab, I guess. Casey ends up finding out from Max that he's not here to get back together, but to fully break it off, and it's really, really sad. What a crazy, sad premiere. Derek ends up turning the cheek and helping Sally get through the Marty's birthday party, which is the only positive thing in this episode. Of course, Derek always has to come through. He dresses up as like an evil villain and hopes the whole party get going. Meanwhile, Casey is just depressed because she completely let go of everything she enjoyed in her life. Oh well. No, I'm just kidding. She barely broke up with him. She was just like, I don't want to do this anymore, and I wish it could just end there. Meanwhile, Casey and Lizzie test if they could really get Derek to do anything now that he's got a girlfriend and is supposedly much softer.
Sally really has changed him.
Yeah, no, he just pranks them, and that's the end of it. So it's a really depressing start to a new season. I really hope things go up from here. The only thing noticeable that's, like, huge in terms of, like, making a difference is Edwin is getting a lot older, his voice is changing, Marty's becoming a lot more mature, Derek's hair is slightly longer, and Casey is exactly the same. It feels like the show is, like, kind of revamped in that sense, like they were expecting this season and celebrating it, you know, like it's a really positive vibe. It's just the things that go on are very sad, honestly. Hopefully it gets better in the next episode. The second episode is called Open Mic Plight. And this one is actually kind of crazy. It takes that normal talent show trope, but kind of makes it more boring, I guess, is the explanation I would give for this. So it starts out with Sally talking about Derek and how he doesn't open up emotionally.
I want you to know how crazy I am about you. You're a pretty wonderful guy, Derek Venturi.
Right back at you, Sal.
Right back at you?
She's like saying how much she likes him and he just doesn't even know what to say. Meanwhile, they're having this open mic night at the Smelly Nellies where he works, and I'm just gonna call it the Smelly Nellies. I don't know if it's real anymore or what. Casey and Derek have a disagreement about who's singing D-Rock. Apparently she was only doing it that one time in that former episode. I don't know if you remember, but Derek's band had Casey sing for them, and you know, he just never accepted her part of the group, which is kind of a cheat out of the plot before, but whatever.
Because I'd rather sing with my new girl group anyway.
What new girl group?
It's a trio featuring me, myself, and I.
And everybody is trying to do something in this talent show. Marty is preparing to do tap dancing, which I think is like downright crazy. Edwin is doing stand-up comedy, which actually brings a little bit of a threat to George for some reason.
Please, no more. I want to drink my milk.
Thanks, Dad. I'm here all week.
And hey, I know his fourth season haircut. It's very trim, very nice. And the conflict in the episode really begins when Sally confronts Derek and says, I want you to write a song for me and actually like make it meaningful. And he's like, oh no.
Oh, I like the way you sneeze and your really knobby knees.
and then he's like, maybe I should write a ballad, or it becomes basically like he has to get the band in on him singing a love song. He's like, we need to do something different. So he has to make a song for Sally, and he's horrible at it. He just does not know how.
Got a good idea there, you know, trying something more emotional, like a ballad.
Why would we do that?
Meanwhile, Casey's getting ready for this whole open mic night that they are now treating as a talent show, essentially. She's making a really depressing song about her love life and sings it to her mom, and it at the end of the day is not even singing that one. So I don't know why we just watched that whole scene. Oh, this is why, because Derek listens in and takes her song. It's a ballad, but he makes it kind of cool, so maybe he does deserve to take it. No, I'm just kidding. That's horribly irresponsible. Meanwhile, Edwin is still not getting any of these jokes across, and I can't believe this character. He's so funny. So Casey and Sally find out that Derek essentially took Casey's song, actually, and is trying to play it for Sally, which is kind of ridiculous when you think about it. Later, the band is trying to come up with an idea of, like, what kind of love song to sing, and it turns out to not be the other boy's problem, just Derek's. So he goes to Casey for help.
Well, you need to help me write a new sensitive song because you insensitively told her that I didn't write that other song, and for that, you should apologize.
Oh, okay, so you want to write a love song with your sister. Cool. Yeah, so he begs her to help him write this love song about his emotions. And yeah, I guess that's just gonna go over well. So Casey helps Derek come to terms with his feelings and write some lyrics, but they're all terrible.
Derek, I think the reason you can't do this is because you're doing something you shouldn't be doing.
Working with you?
Thinking. It's never worked for you.
So she, like, helps him, like, actually get into what he's actually feeling, and it's kind of sweet. Like, he says that everything's a lot better with her, and I don't know if I'm buying it, or this is just cheesy adult writing for kids. But yeah, so Derek and Casey kind of team up for that moment in time until the actual talent show, where we actually get to see everybody go. Edwin does a good job, which doesn't seem like it's gonna happen at first, but then it does. Thank God, because it was scaring me too much. He makes fun of his dad, and that's how how he gets popular. See, that's the moral of the story. Make fun of your dad and you will be a comedian.
Come on, tell us some funny stories.
Lizzie, it's not polite to heckle.
Like about your family.
That is some very specific heckling.
So when it's time for D-Rock to go up, Derek is way too nervous. I guess because he spiked his hair with gel, so I would be nervous too. So he asks Casey to sing it for him, which is kind of a cop-out, and if I were Sally, I'd be mad, even though, you know, she's gotten mad at more things in the past. I don't know why this doesn't bother her, but yeah, Casey ends up singing for him, and honestly, this song is so bad.
Smiling stronger. Our problem seems slight now. Everything seems bright now. For the first time, I truly.
I think the lyrics are supposed to sound sweet and it's supposed to be like touching, but it is so uncomfortable. Like, I don't know where they're touching, but it's not good. But yeah, I guess Sally thinks it's the sweetest thing in the world, so it's just kind of forgotten about. And we get a little tap dance from Marty at the end, which, by the way, looks really bad. It's not actually her tap dancing, and they just added weird sound effects, and it's so obvious. Weird episode. It's funny that they're trying to make a talent show related thing but don't involve the school literally at all. I don't know why it has to be at Smelly Melly's. The pressure is horrible. Are the only people involved in this talent show just the Venturis? Like, it just seems like it's only them contributing in this. I don't know what patrons are at this bar that night, but like, stop watching just as one family perform. It's weird.
My boyfriend Derek, my friend Patrick, my friend Casey, her friend Noel, Derek's friend Kendra, all sitting here together.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Episode 3 of Life with Derek is just friends, and this one is just created because they saw my videos and they're like, we need to make an episode tailored to Johnny 2000, because honestly, that's what it feels.
Well, is he moving in on your woman?
She claims they're just friends.
Just friends? Well, guys and girls are never just friends.
So in this one, Derek's girlfriend Sally is going out with an ex-boyfriend, and it brings up this whole conversation of, can guys and girls be friends without having potential to date? And obviously, Casey and Derek are such a hot topic when it comes to dating because as siblings, they just love to talk about it. And Casey loves to butt it. And she is very insistent that guys and girls can be friends.
Well, Casey, I kind of agree with Derek. I mean, when guys and girls are friends, it just gets kind of complicated.
Oh my god, it makes me think of, like, what if we had an episode where she's like, I could prove that brothers and sisters can just be friends. That would be crazy. I would love to see that episode. But yeah, for real, this episode is about Casey trying to prove that point. And she uses a bunch of guys throughout the episode to prove that point, which is kind of crazy. So Derek is the major advocate against guys and girls just being able to be friends, which I kind of feel like it would be the opposite in modern day. Like, Derek would be the one trying to see his girlfriend. You know, I like that it's gender swapped because Sally defending this is so specific, and I don't know, seeing Casey defend it also makes it even funnier. So Derek kind of pinches a nerve with Casey saying, like, you have no guy friends. So she goes to Emma and is like, hey, where can I find my guy friends? Because I do not have any. And so she sees the guy that she did the play with in last season, which is kind of cool. Noel's an interesting character because he's kind of a jerk, just like Derek, and it's like hard to see his intentions. And Casey forms a friendship with him to prove a point to Derek. Of course, everything she does in life.
Is Derek around? I want to introduce him to my friend.
Not home yet.
Oh.
They have food together at the cafeteria, which I guess is a date for high school. Kind of funny that that's where it happens. And he is very clearly not on the side of guys and girls just being friends, which is so funny because obviously Casey doesn't get the hint immediately. Derek is also trying to prove the same point to Sally by going on a lunch date with Paige. Or sorry, I mean Kendra. Once you see that Kendra definitely likes Derek, you see that the point is pretty obvious that Derek is about to be right about this whole thing. Kendra is clearly trying to get her attention. So later, Casey has Noel over, only to find out that he might actually have a crush on her, which would actually be the opposite of her point.
Oh, please. Guys and girls can't be friends.
They can't.
No.
It kind of gives the impression that that's exactly what Casey is trying to do, which is the opposite. So Noel is like setting out to be with Casey. Oh my gosh, it builds so much in this episode with Derek and Casey arguing about this whole ordeal, and Casey getting other guys into the mix. Kendra starts following Derek, and of course this plan is starting to blow up.
Can't wait for our date, XOXO Kendra?
Sounds like Kendra thinks Saturday's a real date, not a pretend date.
See, I told you, guys and girls can't be friends. The cookie proves it.
So they decide to have a double date because Casey is worried that Noel's getting the wrong impression. Meanwhile, George is talking on the phone to a coworker named Terry. We think it's a boy, but then it turns out to be a girl, so it becomes a lot more controversial, and that's where Edwin is like really trying to drive home his point, with him and Lizzie both spying on this woman that comes over for dinner. And yeah, everybody is just suspecting George of cheating because there's no way a guy and a girl could be friends. Okay, clearly. So Sally goes on a date with her ex, and it's very clear that he does have an interest in her.
Why can't he accept the fact that we are just friends?
Maybe because, we're not. Sally, I still like you.
So everybody is wrong about their points in this episode, which I do find fun. I feel like it's good to have a flawed system like this. It's very, like, teenager-esque. Meanwhile, there's a dinner going on at the Venturi's household trying to prove the same point. So everybody's just on a dinner.
Okay, Terry, cards on the table. What are your intentions with my dad?
But it's even crazier at McNelly's because Derek, Casey, and Sally are all on double dates, essentially, and it's so awkward to think about this. Kendra is hitting on Derek the entire time because nobody's getting the hint that guys and girls can't be friends. It is, like, against the entire episode to prove this point, and I like how they double down even further, with Derek and Sally eventually making up and admitting to each other, like, yeah, I think we're definitely leading these people on by accident. And I feel bad for all the victims of this episode because they clearly are expecting a relationship and it doesn't happen. Meanwhile, Edwin and Lizzie catch Terry on the phone talking about George. Oh my gosh, so you think he's gonna actually cheat? And then you realize it's just her fiance. She's married, and yeah, I guess guys and girls can be friends. That's like the ultimate point. Casey and Noel end the episode with agreeing to go on an actual date, which I find kind of insane. Like, so I guess Casey was wrong the whole time and she's just embracing it. Meanwhile, Edwin has learned his lesson and is not going to embarrass his family anymore. So I guess moral of the story is both relationships can coexist. But what do you guys think? Can guys and girls be friends? Like, please argue in the comments below. But yeah, that episode was just, gosh, it's so crazy.
But it'll be tough considering I share a house with you.
Boys, March break has arrived and there will be a party.
Next, we have an episode called March Break. It's the 4th episode of the 4th season, and I think it's pretty much a spring break. In America, we call it spring break. Canada, they call it March break, which does make sense. It always does fall into March, but I thought it was celebrating the season, not necessarily just the fact it's the time. I don't know. They talk about it like it's spring break, and everybody is super hyped. I mean, Casey wants to start a book club, which, oh my god, I'm not even gonna get into that. And Derek's friend Spinner, sorry, I keep getting his Degrassi name stuck up. It's Ralph. And so Emma wants to go to this whole party while Casey has her book club, which I don't disagree with. I don't know why you would spend an entire spring break starting a book club. You could do that during the school year. Meanwhile, George is like, I want to plan a 12-hour road trip to somewhere else in Canada that I don't even know the name of. But yeah, he wants the whole family to go with him, and everybody's like, why would we do that? Especially Derek and Casey, who are like, we are just going to fight the whole time. So they insist on wanting to stay home so they can go to their own personal activities. Later, we find out that their friends are actually all going to a different place.
Forgot you were going to the Yucatan? People forget about a dentist appointment, not the Yucatan.
Dentist appointment.
Ralph!
I called to say that my parents got this really cheap airline ticket. Well, guess what? I'm going to Aruba.
So the party's canceled, and everything is kind of ruined in terms of expectations for the March break. Derek and Casey somehow talk their way out of the family road trip that Nora and George go on, which I find crazy. I can't believe they just kind of let it happen. Nora is reasonably stressed out about the fact that Derek and Casey will be left alone. Like, she doesn't trust them to not fight, or I guess kill each other? I don't know. I wouldn't trust them either. It seems like they're not meant to be civil. So yeah, the Venturis are headed out on this road trip while Casey and Derek are left behind. Once all of their plans are completely canceled, they realize they just have to coexist in the house. So no surprise here, Casey and Derek are learning how to coexist. With both of them starting to turn on each other multiple times. They have to act like they're not fighting to keep it cool for their parents and let them actually go through with this.
Yeah, we're getting along great. Yeah, how are things with you?
But yeah, Derek ends up taking a page from Casey's book, which actually has the ending to the book, kind of a smart move when you think about it, and starts hiding it from her to kind of like make a point. And then Casey takes Derek's famous baseball card and wants to flush it down the toilet, essentially. So the fights begin almost immediately, and it's very clear that this show is just a constant cycle of these two arguing. Casey ends up doing this plot that's been done on the Brady Bunch, where they actually create boundaries around the household to say who goes where, brothers versus sisters, and girls versus boys. But really, it's just Casey versus Derek. There's no difference here.
Just stick to your side of the house and we'll get along just fine.
So Derek and Casey are trying not to fight all the time, but it does not work. Derek ends up having a good time on his own, but he starts messing with Casey in her own life, so they start fighting once again, one by one, breaking each other's boundaries with the line given on the floor. So they keep stepping it up a notch by Casey taking all the food out of the fridge, and then Derek starts a food fight with Casey in the living room, which I don't know how in the world he thought this would go well or he wouldn't have to clean it up. Anyway, they both lead to accidentally knocking over the TV, pretty much convinced that it's broken, and that kind of sucks because if you're a kid in the 2000s, you know that TV is the best part of life. They have such a nice TV too, it like sucks that they ruined it.
Very bad, and it's your fault.
My fault? Who knocked the TV over? Who is calling so late?
Nora.
Hey, Mom.
Meanwhile, the road trip is going horribly with Edwin, Marty, and Lizzie complaining the whole time, like Edwin farts too much, Lizzie is a buzzkill, and Marty is just hyper. They end up spending the night at a hotel because their car breaks down, and it just gets worse and worse for them. So it seems like nobody's having a good March break. I guess it's because they call it March break, it's just getting worse. But yeah, this just feels like another party episode of Life with Derek, where try to put them in scenarios where they're alone to fight, and it just gets worse and worse. But the fact they can get on each other's nerves so instantly is the biggest concern for me. I feel like it's hard to see their relationship as super healthy. Like, honestly, it's getting to be too much for me. And so far this season, all we've seen are Derek and Casey making their external relationship somehow revert back to their sibling relationship, which is almost impressive at this point because I don't know how they twist it so easily.
Just watching a little late night TV.
But yeah, I guess the only thing I really learned about March break is that in Canada, it's a different vibe completely. While all the characters are going to Florida or some really nice place, Casey and Derek end up being stuck at home. And honestly, I feel like I've seen an episode like this over and over again, but the way they spite each other in this is kind of impressive, if I have to say so myself. By the time the parents come back, the family all spends time in front of the TV as God intended, which is kind of a peaceful ending, honestly.
This is gonna be the best TYK whatever day ever.
TYKTWD.
The next episode is Take a Stepkid to Work Day, and this one's kind of unique. It leans into the more interesting parts of Life with Derek without necessarily honing in on the brother-sister relationship, which is nice because I feel like I need a break from that and just all the relationships that Life with Derek has become. Like, it's like everybody's dating at this point. But in this one, it's basically the characters being able to follow their parents to their work day, which is kind of interesting.
Excuse me?
Because tomorrow is TYSKTWD. Take your step kid to work day, so I'm going to work with George and you get to work with my mom.
They do this in like a lot of sitcoms and TV shows about like characters like going to shadow somebody at their job or like taking on a new occupation. I remember watching an episode recently about this with Unfabulous, and it's very interesting how, you know, the kids fit into the labor, you know, having their quirky young characteristics coming into an adult workplace is always a recipe for disaster. So instead of Derek going with his dad and Casey going with her mom, it's going to be the opposite. Casey's going to go with Derek's dad, George, to the law firm and actually help out with administrative stuff, and Derek is going to help Nora with window selling stuff. I don't know, her job is so vague and it doesn't seem like they're in a rush to clarify it, so I'm just gonna have to go along with it. This bugs Derek right away because he really wants to see a really attractive secretary that's at George's office, so I guess that's his big ordeal. Something really special about this episode is that Michael Cedar, which is the guy who plays Derek, wrote this along with somebody else. So that's kind of cool to think about Derek writing this episode. Like, I'm watching it with excitement. So Derek uses this as an excuse to kind of be lazy. He's like, you're a mom, like, why don't I just stay here and do your mom work while you do your regular work? Which seems like a good idea in theory until Derek doesn't take care of any of the kids, and they end up being super sick. And Casey makes a really interesting experience out of her whole workday with George by first off organizing his filing cabinets, which kind of stresses him out at first. Like, he's a generally very messy guy, so this is gotta be annoying for him.
George, I made you a new system.
You move my stuff?
Organized. George, I organized your stuff.
But Casey just thinks she's objectively doing the correct thing, so she is not in the mood to hear any criticism. I don't know why. She's just such a perfectionist. It follows her everywhere. I mean, I would be grateful if I were George, but she has to understand that he has a different way of organizing things. Meanwhile, Derek ends up making everything harder for Nora, and she's just so stressed. So Derek decides to go out of his way to call one of Nora's clients, invite her over here, and give her a home decorating advice for Nora, but not telling her. So I don't know why that's fair for her. Like, he just set her up in such a stressful way, like, and not even telling her. Like, I don't know why he thinks that's appropriate. He ends up calling George's office and messing with Casey, which is actually kind of funny. I didn't see that coming, but this is a funny conversation.
Stole my job.
Well, I am very sorry to hear that. How can we help?
Well, I'd like to sue my stepsister for utter lameness.
Derek, you know, some of us are actually trying to work on TYS KTWD.
She thinks that he's just trying to prank call her again, so she gets on the phone with George's boss and ends up calling Derek out.
Mr. Brznuskevich? Excellent fake name, Derek. You're Mr. Venturi's boss? I am so sorry, sir. You see, it's TYSK.
It's so awkward because she's just like ruining her whole first day because of her anger toward Derek. And it's like, that's the thing that makes this show go too far. Like, they're not even in the same room and they're still influencing each other at every step of the way. I mean, it's funny, sure. I'll give it that. So she's asked to make copies, but the copier breaks. So she can't do a big thing, she can't do a small thing. Casey just thinks being nice is gonna get her everywhere, but no, it makes the copy machine break, and it gets hectic. While at the same time, Derek and Nora have a impromptu meeting with the biggest client they could possibly find, and it is horrible timing. Nora is stressed and is super upset with Derek, which I don't think Derek even gets. Derek tries to just give his boyish charm to this older woman.
Please tell Nora that I'm sorry that this just didn't work out.
You're leaving? No, but, you haven't let Nora do her pitch yet.
I don't think this is a good fit.
And he's just lucky that she has two boys and could find him charming. She gives Nora another chance, but you know what? Honestly, it gets worse and worse. With George freaking out at Casey now because the printer's broken, neither of them can figure out a way to fix it. It just gets worse and worse.
Bertha ate the original?
No! So they actually have to call for the help of Edwin to get out of his sick bed and go to the office to help. Which, by the way, can we acknowledge that how is he gonna get there? Like, this is a young kid that doesn't know how to drive. His parents are both in two separate meetings. Like, how does he find his way there? Like, there's no Uber. You know what? We're not gonna talk about it too much. Just when it seems that Derek blew this whole thing for Nora, they finally get into a nice conversation where this woman listens to Nora's vision and actually gives her the opportunity. Her and Derek are super excited, and I will never invite Derek to my workplace. I can't believe how this played out. It doesn't matter that it went well. It just matters that Derek ruined everything. Meanwhile, Edwin does fix the printer, which is definitely a positive start, and George and Casey kind of have a little heart-to-heart about why she would be good in the workplace.
You're gonna do great things, Casey, because you go the extra mile.
You really think so?
Of course.
And it's a nice episode because it reminds us that Derek and Casey are independent people, despite the fact that they're on the phone fighting all the time. Luckily, the episode ends with another argument with the two, and they're just not looking forward to the adult life after this. So, yeah, Take a Stepkid to Work Day is a very interesting episode. This next episode, episode 6, is titled 6.5, which is actually kind of accurate. And something I didn't expect was to introduce a whole new character. So Emma starts out the episode this time talking about this guy named Truman putting out ratings for all the girls in school. Oh my gosh, this concept is always so crazy to me. Casey at first thinks he's like really nice because they have similar backgrounds, and tries to be the bigger person and not want to hear her rating, but Emma is keeping her lips sealed.
Your Truman rating? 6.5.
6.5? That is ridiculous and outrageous and demeaning.
He's a 6.5, which means this is not the end for her. It's very much Casey versus all guys throughout this show, honestly. It reminds me of that episode Babe Raider. It was like the most sexist episode in season 1 about this video game that was exploiting women. And now it's like kind of like that again. This guy is going around rating women at school and is like, is that appropriate? This becomes the topic of conversation at the Venturi's dinner table because what else do you talk about with your family except what other people are attracted to about you? Like, how weird is that? So Derek is laughing at her and honestly is not really good morally. I can't believe this is the way we talk about things.
Can we talk about something else, please?
That bad, eh?
6.5.
6.5?
Later, we see Truman at Smelly McNelly's, and he is actually hitting on Derek's girlfriend, Sally. Ooh, so maybe there's a conflict of interest here. Derek gets really annoyed at first, but he kind of lets it go. Then we get into a conversation with the parents about looks versus personality and what people look for when they're going out with somebody, and oh my god, it becomes such a controversial topic, especially with this family, but it's not that surprising. We then see Derek confront Truman about rating Sally, and Truman thinks they are on the same page, which at first glance that makes a lot of sense, especially since the way Derek is in relation to Casey, but you know, he starts to actually think otherwise. The side plot is about Nora trying to appear younger, and it's so funny because of course George makes it worse every time around.
You know what, Liz? Women can wear whatever they want, whatever their age.
Like, it's so hard to compliment somebody in a way that is appropriate to them and not offensive. Like, not even just women. I just think it's hard to tell somebody what they want to hear. Like, that concept in general is hard to do. Meanwhile, Casey actually finds herself starting to dress a little bit better and actually want to get a higher score, which is kind of crazy. And Emma makes her own list, putting Truman on the hot side, which is kind of crazy because Truman ends up actually asking her out.
I'm Truman.
Casey.
Emily.
Nice to meet you both. And Casey, now that we've talked, I'm willing to go up to 6 3/4.
Meanwhile, Kendra is in this episode. She's doing a fashion show to actually further the plot about what people should be wearing. Meanwhile, we finally get Paul back as the therapist talking to Casey, and what took him 6 episodes to come back? Casey needed your help, Paul, especially through the party with Max, the Just Friends plot, and honestly, it's just crazy that we're talking about the rating system and he as a guidance counselor isn't doing anything about it. Like, I feel like this would fall under the category of bullying? I don't know. He starts telling Casey that looks can be important, and he was handsome. Okay, now we get in this. So later, Derek realizes that Emma and Truman are on a date and is like, oh my god, this has gone way too far. So he actually talks to her, tries to talk her out of it, but she doesn't listen. He is just a playboy, and he has been driven to actually care.
Please put out.
Emily, I'm a guy. And guys can tell stuff about other guys, kind of like girls can tell stuff about other girls. It's called the guidar.
Oh my gosh, so he goes to Casey and is like, we have to do something about this. The first time they actually work together, I feel like. We get Marty's take on the whole situation about looks, and honestly, it's kind of funny. It's very sweet because it's like such a genuine perspective. Meanwhile, Kendra is using the rating system that Truman created to get the models for the fashion show at school. And oh my god, this is where it's crazy because it's like actually being implemented as fact. Like, what the heck is going on? Derek becomes even more stressed out when Truman takes Kendra on a date, and now he's like, okay, clearly you're trying to get to me at a certain point because these are all girls that I've been on dates with, which kind of true. And Truman tries to like vibe with him, and honestly, it does not work. Derek starts seeing right through this guy, and it actually shows a change in Derek's character for good, honestly.
Please, keep my strategy to yourself.
Strategy? Oh, you mean the old rig the rating system, then make her jealous by dating her friends strategy.
That is the strategy.
Meanwhile, Casey is purposely dressing hideous to try to avoid getting rated, and then she realizes that that's not the solution. It's about finding clothes that you actually feel good in. So she starts this whole anti-fashion show where everybody could wear whatever they want, and yeah, it's actually a really sweet idea, definitely good for the self-esteem of the people in the school, and I just like that Casey actually comes through, but I do think she should be wearing something a little less casual for this event. Like, she's just in jeans for the show. Truman smiles and is like there, and it seems like they're trying to make him like likable, because I don't know, I was just hoping that he would be out of this episode.
You gave me a lousy score to get my attention?
Casey, no guy in the right mind would give you a 6.5.
He seems like actually caring about what Casey's doing, and then we find out at the end of the episode that maybe the rating system was just to get her attention, and it's like, what? This guy gets more twisted as the show goes on, honestly. Next is a really insightful Derek-related episode. Episode 7 is Derek Denies Denial. So it starts out with Derek and Sally celebrating because Sally got into a college, but the college is a little far away. At first, Derek is like, oh, I don't mind moving with you, which is actually kind of sweet. Like, I thought at first he would be like rude about it, but no, he's not. Until she says that she wants to move on her own, and then he's like, oh, I guess we're broken up.
Well, it's been nice dating you. Good luck at West.
And just walks out. Oh my god. The most casual breakup ever. At first, when the family dinner table hears about this, they think that Derek got broken up with, but it turns out he broke up with her. But he does not tell anybody what went on, because that's just who he is. Meanwhile, Marty is going under the table. Lizzie and Marty act really sus in this episode, which kind of gets explained later, but at first you're just like, what are they doing? Edwin starts noticing a lot of changes in Derek's behavior, like he's not getting mad at him, he's just acting like a different person, which is just off for him. So he goes to Casey, asking for her to look into it, which I don't know why in the world he would assume that Casey could help with this. She ends up calling Sally and getting the 411 on what's been going on.
I say we go straight to the source.
Derek?
No, silly. Sally.
You know her number by heart?
I'm a big fan.
She confronts him, but he's just like, no, I don't care. Like, there's no actual negativity going on here. And she even learns that he didn't tell Sam, his closest friend, what was going on, which is actually even more crazy. My boy Paul actually plays an important role in this episode, thank God, because we need some good therapists on TV. And he's just like, hey, like, get him to open up. That's what he needs. One by one, the family starts figuring out that Derek is off, and everybody's noticing it except for him. He's just convinced there's nothing wrong. He finds out that Casey called his ex. He's like, why don't I just call Max? Which is honestly pretty fair. Like, Casey did, you know, go beyond the line for this one, but she wanted to figure it out, and he's not telling anybody, so you know what? I'm on her side for this one. We find out why Marty and Lizzie are so suspicious, because they found a dog and took it in and have taken care of it, which is so crazy, because usually that would be like an A-plot like story, but the fact that it's just under the radar and only coming up halfway through the episode is kind of crazy to me. But she asks Derek to keep this little dog in his room, which at first you're like, okay, I don't know how this has to do with the plot, but then Derek realizes he's a lot more suspicious, with the rest of the family thinking there's something terribly wrong, and he just looks worse and worse. Because he's not sharing his feelings, people just think it's horrible. He gets tricked into Paul's office by Casey, and we get a Paul and Derek scene, which is the first time in the show, and I kind of find super cool, especially since he's only been there for Casey. Like, this is an exciting moment for me.
Someone who understands your pain and can help you through it. Reach out, Derek, you'll be glad you did.
Derek?
They go to the parents because it's gotten that bad, and everybody goes to Derek's door listening in. They're convinced there is a huge problem, and when they see the clothes on the floor, they realize that it's a dog. Derek is not being suspicious just for that reason. But we, as the audience, know the dog's not the only issue here. Derek is covering up his emotions by saying it has to do with the dog, and looking at the dog as if it's Sally, and starting to get really emotional when they want to take it away. That's when it really hits him. He like sits in his room in dead silence because he's dealing with the fact he hasn't dealt with his emotions. Instead of actually opening up to the family, which I definitely think should have happened, I don't know why we didn't get that moment, he just goes right back to Smelly McNelly's and talks to Sally straight up. And they two together decide that, hey, let's actually be together for the time being until she goes away for college, and that maybe he was just lashing out for no reason. All around, a really positive episode, like not only just about the dog, but about Derek dealing with his emotions and how how that is supposed to be played out, how people around you can sometimes realize what you're going through even better than you sometimes, because, you know, things can just get so deep or so personal, and at least the family cares enough to check on Derek as much as they do. Like, I think Derek should be a little bit more grateful. The dog was definitely a unexpected plot line to weave into the main story, which I really like. I feel like it definitely shows about how he's trying to hide his feelings, and Lizzie finally gets a plot. We're like 7 episodes in, and I feel like she's barely talked this show. Otherwise, it's a good episode, and I feel like I would recommend this one to anybody who should get into this show. Episode number 8 is called No Secrets, and it's actually an episode about Truman. Look what's starting to bubble up. It actually reminds me of Derek Denies Denial really well, because it's about keeping secrets. It starts out with Truman asking out Casey, which is very bold of him considering he was so disrespectful to literally every woman. And I don't know why we're not like trashing him or getting him sent to the principals, because this is kind of a really important offense. Casey is like, I would never like a guy like that, and it's just so crazy that this is probably what the episode's about to be. Casey talks about keeping secrets from yourself, so it's a secret related episode. Edwin is actually really heavy into this plot. At the dinner table, he's talking about all this snooping he did casually, like opening Nora's mail or seeing candy wrappers from Lizzie, or even looking at Casey's email, and they're opening that idea that secrets are for personal reasons, and sometimes you can't snoop around. So Edwin takes this as like a moment of like, maybe I should be proud, because obviously he has Derek as an older brother. Why is he not going to be having a bad influence? So he goes to Derek and is like, hey, what kind of secrets we're going to find out? And Derek's just like not having it right now, so he thinks this is a test. And so Edwin actually starts getting into more snooping than before, with Derek as kind of his leader. Meanwhile, Casey finds out that Truman actually has a secret, the reason he's at this school. Ooh. And she's like, oh, how do I figure this out? But there's actually some drama going on in her life. Her secret is that she is having dreams about Truman. Oh my gosh. So for some reason, she's fantasizing about kissing this boy that just raided a bunch of girls. And honestly, this is not normal for Casey. I think this is crazy out of character, but that's what makes it interesting, I guess, so let's keep watching. So now that Lizzie is aware that Edwin has been doing some snooping, she actually is pretty clever and purposely hides her diary in an obvious spot and puts fake things in it. Ooh, kind of genius. And I love it when they meet up in the closet to actually like come up with a game plan, like her and Marty. It's very sweet, and especially since it's a family show, like relating to just the house being a part of the drama. I don't know why, I just like that. So Edwin goes right to Derek about this whole situation, and he's like, oh my god, Lizzie's diary said that this girl doesn't have a crush on me, and he's like, obviously this is a fake plant. Which is so funny that Derek is this smart.
How goes the pranking?
Pranking doesn't matter anymore. Nothing matters anymore.
Derek sets Edwin out to actually get dirt on Casey, which I don't really know the reason, but hey, I guess that's just the episode. Derek and Casey always against each other. So Edwin goes right to Casey's room and is caught pretty immediately. She's very defensive and having all these dreams about Truman, so clearly she has something to hide. Edwin doesn't actually find the diary, but Casey thinks he does and is super loud about it. She's convinced that Derek did actually take it to the school and tell everybody about Truman, which he didn't, and it's so crazy because she just basically blurts out her own secrets to everybody, and Truman becomes interested, obviously. So now this is not gonna go well. Next thing you know, George is accusing Derek, and Derek's accusing Edwin, and it turns out nobody really knows where the journal is, but they're all acting like they do, which honestly is a funny comedy bit. So Lizzie, Casey, and Marty decide to start playing dirty. Lizzie goes rummaging through Derek's room only to be caught, and suddenly this is all turned on Edwin. They take Edwin's teddy bear and threaten to like take it away from him unless he gives back Casey's diary, so it becomes a really intense war of secrets. Casey feels the shame when she realizes that she just misplaced her diary and this is nobody's fault. So after this giant war of everybody in secrets, it's like technically her issue. She apologizes to Derek, and we move on back to the Casey dream situation. She's asking Paul if there's actually a meaning behind dreams, and I'm curious if you guys feel this way too. Like, do dreams actually subconsciously mean something to you, or are they just like you trying to tell yourself something? I don't know. I've always thought both ways, like maybe dreams are just trying to remind you of patterns patterns in your life, and that maybe it's a sign that you want to be doing something differently, but you haven't been. So, I don't know. It's a very interesting concept of psychology, honestly. She tries to get the info out of Paul on why this guy moved here, and Paul is not going to give that to you, Casey. He would literally get fired. So she goes to Truman, and he tells her. Honestly, it's so weird because she's worried about liking him, and he's telling her he got kicked out of a school, and it's that bad boy trope from the 2000s that I can't stop talking about. iCarly did it, Hannah Montana did it. There's just something about these shows that they just want bad boys all the time, and I can't believe Life with Derek is also like that. Truman says the only way she could prove to him that she doesn't like him is if she kisses him, and she does, realizing she does like him. Oh my gosh. So this episode really did turn out to be a turning event that I was not expecting. I do like the secrets plot line. I feel like that's like really interesting the more it got on, but this going to Truman and Casey, having them be together, like I don't know what to do with this plot. Her entire family like bashes her for this because they're like, why would you kiss him if you want to prove you don't like him? And honestly, guys, same. I'm on the family side for this whole endeavor. Really fun episode, and I definitely think Life with Derek is getting juicier in a way I was not expecting. Now, the next episode is actually really important. It kind of foreshadows everything that is going to come for the rest of the season, because Derek and Casey are seniors and about to graduate. A lot of important things going on, typical for a final season of a show, like a big dramatic turn of events that we're building toward. And I like that. I like that when sitcoms have to raise the stakes, these like normal life events to help us get there, especially with this show. It's called Rude Awakenings, season 4, episode 9, and it is the exact halfway mark between this season. Yeah, this season only has 18 episodes, which is more than the first two, but less than the third. All about taking this one important final test that actually is going to really matter toward everybody's grades. Casey, of course, has the perfect study habits, and a lot of the episode is her knowing she's going to ace this test. Meanwhile, Derek is not studying and is just so confident that he does not need this test. So all is business as usual in this episode so far. Derek ends up going to Paul, actually, about the fact that he's not doing well in school, and Paul is like, you have to do something about this. Thank God Paul is like utilized in another way. I feel like he wasn't in it a lot. And he gives Casey the opposite advice, saying she needs to study less.
There is such a thing as overstudying.
No, Paul, there's such thing as under-knowing.
Once Derek has this like crazy epiphany that he's gonna end up nowhere in life because of his grades, he starts to actually commit to wanting to be tutored.
The future is now.
So he actually studies, and it's like the odds are pretty against him, so he's feeling weak and down. But Edwin actually comes through for him, and Edwin's a good brother for this because I don't know why this would be happening. Casey, on the meantime, is trying to take a break from studying because she's told that if she overstudies, she's also going to not do well on the test. This becomes a huge issue for everybody. Of course, George and Nora play into this episode a lot because grades are really important, and I like seeing them actually be parental figures. Like, it's definitely necessary. So Casey's getting taught how to chill, and Derek's being taught how to study. Edwin and George are really helpful and actually like make him a schedule and help him study, and it's cool because like they actually find fun in it themselves, and I really appreciate that. Meanwhile, Casey is being pampered and actually given like an avocado mask, a spa day. It's actually sweet the way they're so nice to her, and it's turning out really, really well.
I'm still very relaxed. Is there onion in this?
Sooner or later, Casey and Derek realize it's in both of their best interests to study together, so that way Casey can still study and not worry about it, and Derek can pass the test. And it's just crazy because everybody's like, why are they together? Like, honestly, I am also like that. Everybody in school is wondering why Derek and Casey are working together, and I am also wondering that. So at school, everybody's taking the test, and honestly super nervous. They high-five at the end, and it feels great to take a really important test and just get it over with. Like, I would feel just awesome. And luckily, we find out exactly after who did well. And Derek did well, Casey did well. It's just all around a good episode for everybody. It doesn't even end in like a weird way. It's just all positive. So I'm confused as why we had an episode like this, because we've never had one before, but it does feel like you're ramping up toward the end of the series. So I'm actually getting excited, especially since I don't have to make these videos as much, guys. This is so much work. So episode 10 of season 4 is called How I Met Your Stepbrother, and this one is really fun because it does something that a lot of sitcoms have done before and is always a great episode trope, when you have flashbacks and different memories that come back up in the current present time. This episode is celebrating Nora and her birthday, talking about a lot of memories that they've had on when they actually came together as a family. Apparently it's the 2-year anniversary, and I can't believe this entire show takes the place of 2 years, but I guess they need to make it fair when they're graduating, so they had to do that. Whatever. We learn a little bit of a plot twist that Derek and Casey were purposely not introduced to each other super early because they were worried that they wouldn't be able to work as a family. So then we get a whole flashback episode carefully seeing how Casey worked her way into the Venturi's household. It starts at school with Nora and Casey just with bangs. I don't know why they didn't change that much, honestly. And she's touring the school, seeing what's up. She's about to meet Derek for the first time, and she is super nervous. Meanwhile, Derek is also told he's going to meet Casey for the first time, and he is not nervous. He just has a plan, it seems. And honestly, they could have gave him a different haircut, and it would have come across way better. I mean, George looks like he has different hair. I don't know why they didn't give it to Derek. So Derek ends up having Ralph step in as himself so he could spy on Casey without actually meeting her. Oh my gosh, that's so sketchy of him, honestly. So Casey starts meeting Ralphie and like actually starting to like him, which is kind of cool. And Ralphie actually starts developing a crush on her, which is even crazier to think about. Like the fact that he's like supposed to be playing her stepbrother is like even funnier, especially since all talking about this show is just about the stepbrother and stepsister relationship. It's just so funny that like we have to acknowledge this. I don't know how Casey doesn't pick up on the fact that past Derek keeps just showing up. She has to be at least suspicious. So yeah, older Casey does not want to move into the house. As we know, this is inevitable, so nothing to really be done about it. Casey and Derek meet actually for the first time at Smelly Nellie's, which is kind of hard to believe because this was never a location in the first season. Honestly, they should have just stuck with it. And this is the moment where I'm wondering why they specifically chose not to have them meeting be the pilot. Like, that's usually what you would expect, the origin of a story, but instead, the first episode of Life with Derek was about them fighting over who's gonna get the room, which is cool, it throws you into it, but like, now we're actually getting into how they became that family. I like that they saved this toward the end of the series. It adds a lot of context, and honestly, is really funny. Derek and Casey kind of team up for the first time when they meet, saying that they should split up Nora and George. Kind of insane, but honestly, it makes a lot of sense.
Operation Disengagement.
You said you'd never mention that.
Yeah, ancient history, come on, moving on.
One of the first conversations they have is like how to prank, and it's so real. Like Casey has a super lame experience with trying to prank people while Derek is actually really into it. Their differences are so apparent in this moment. So past Casey and Derek end up seeing the house and actually getting into a full argument, just honestly causing more and more drama and fighting in front of everybody. George and Nora end up in a fight, and it's very clear that maybe this family is not going to work out. Oh my gosh, so it feels like super selfish to see Derek and Casey fight just to not be around each other, but then they realize that Nora and George actually really love each other. So Casey talks him into actually agreeing to be civil and move in together just to make up for the fact that they are horribly unsympathetic as teens. Honestly, like, it's not that surprising looking back. I do get really bothered by these hairstyles though, guys. Like, it is taking me out of it and I don't know how to stop it. The episode ends on a really sweet note and everybody starts dancing and celebrating Nora, and you actually feel happy for them, especially since Derek and Casey are kind of nice, on better terms than they were when they first met, which honestly, actually, now that I'm saying it out loud, is very debatable. They did just have the episode where they were home alone and couldn't stop fighting. Maybe they're getting worse, honestly. No, actually, yeah, they're worse. But they're trying to keep them together for the final season, and that's fair. I'm glad they're actually trying. I've seen a lot of bad flashback episodes, especially ones that are like more clip shows, so I'm glad that they didn't take that approach, and they actually had, you know, Derek and Casey reenact how they met. Like, that's a cool idea. All around fun celebrational like episode, and it's making me teary-eyed because we're so close to finishing this whole thing. The next episode we have is Happy New School Year. Okay, this is gonna be fun. So everybody in this series is having a mental midlife crisis, honestly. Nora and George are trying to enjoy their last 3 days of summer, but it's very clear that everybody is struggling. Like, Lizzie doesn't want to go back to school, Edwin doesn't want to go back to school, Marty even doesn't want to go back to school. Like, it's just stressful for everybody all around, and it gets even harder when Derek and Casey are added into the mix, which is surprising, because usually they're just such an easy plot line. Just kidding, guys, seriously. So if you hadn't remembered from 1 minute ago, Derek and his girlfriend Sally are struggling because she's about to go away for college, and he's having a tough time dealing with it. It's creeping closer and closer, so he doesn't really know what to do. He tries to avoid the conversation a lot, but it's really complicated for him. It's nice seeing this character grow as much as he is, because at least you get to see him try. Casey is focused on redecorating her entire room to focus on her as a woman and no longer a girl, which is very stressful. I definitely don't understand where those boundaries lie, and neither does Nora in this scene. Casey offhandedly is like, hey, Derek, you should just go move with Sally. And he actually takes it seriously and comes home one day and is like, I'm actually gonna move with her to Vancouver and get a job. So the entire family is kind of shook up. Casey even like takes a break from her midlife crisis because she's like, he listened to me? But yeah, George is freaking out now, and it's like, what are they gonna do about this whole situation? It's so funny because nobody even understands it's Casey's idea until she's the one who kind of keeps admitting it, and of course everybody's having a huge reaction to it. It's just so funny. Edwin and Lizzie kind of get a plot line in this, which is kind of sad because they haven't had plot lines like in forever. Like, Edwin is depressed about this girl he wanted to go out with, and it's just not working out between the two, and Lizzie actually gives him a pep talk and is like, there's plenty of other girls out there, which is really sweet of her. I feel like this dynamic is very underutilized throughout Life with Derek, and it kind of makes me sad. Like, they really hype each other up in the best of ways. Casey recruits Lizzie and Edwin to help try to trick Derek into staying, which works with a little bit of reverse psychology. So Casey is like, okay, you know, maybe I'll tell him to stay. And you know what? That does not work at all. He is definitely trying to leave. None of this stuff works out, and it's kind of really stressful because Derek is so committed to leaving that nothing anybody says can really get to him. And I understand it. You know, like, he's somebody who buries his emotions, so therefore it comes out in crazy ways. It does, however, make a big change when Sally comes over later telling him that she wants to just stay here. She doesn't know that he was planning on moving with her until she comes back and is like, I think I should just stay. And then he realizes how both of them are just being stupid and they shouldn't hold either of each other's back from their dream, which has Casey, Lizzie, and Edwin watching as if they were the ones who did it. And yeah, Derek is just like telling everybody he's staying, and everybody is super excited, except for Derek, who actually is really hurting. He goes up to the tent to talk to Marty, which is actually really sweet. He like lets out his emotions and is like, I'm actually really depressed that this girl is leaving. And you feel bad for him. At least Marty like knows enough to help him out, and he deals with the breakup in a pretty healthy way, which I was not expecting. You know, honestly, I thought he was gonna go, but hey, this is a good way to end the episode. So yeah, Happy New Year just ended up being all about Derek once again, and it ended in a good way. The next episode was a pretty unexpected treat. I didn't expect such a meme episode to come out of Life with Derek, but I'm telling you, taking this episode seriously is just so confusing. So the whole premise is that Ralph is coming to stay with the Venturis for the weekend. And yeah, it's just kind of like a basic premise. Like, Casey just doesn't want two Dereks in the house, and even insults him when he's standing right there in the cold open. I just feel really bad for this guy. He ends up being like a really good house guest, even volunteering to watch the kids while the parents are away. And this is where it gets kind of crazy. He is not the best babysitter. He even puts a bunch of stuff in a blender just for them to drink. I thought it would turn out like he was a really nice guy and the perfect babysitter, but no, he's actually just as worse as Derek, and Edwin, Lizzie, and Marty don't know how to deal with this. They end up drinking his disgusting drink, and for some reason it's good. I really heavily don't think that's possible.
It's a swamp of every sweet frozen thing. You put it all together, and do you know what you have?
The biggest stomachache ever?
But yeah, they all have a great night together, and the house is a mess. Casey has to clean up all of Ralph's mess. Like, he's just as bad as the kids, and she realizes that she's essentially dealing with a stupider Derek, which is kind of funny.
Thanks, man. You just saved me a shower.
She ends up, pulling through, and he looks like a great guy in front of Nora and George. And he's like, yeah, we should keep this up, Casey. And it's like, what the heck? Later, Casey wants to watch a chick flick, but obviously Derek doesn't want to, so Ralph actually volunteers. So this guy is actually just being thoughtful all around. He watches the movie with her and gets super emotional too, just like her.
How could he leave her? Men are such jerks.
They have a heart-to-heart where Casey admits that, like, maybe his girlfriend's lucky to have her, and he's like, wow, I think I'm in love with Casey. And that's what the rest of the episode becomes. It's, like, all just within the house at this one time. So Derek goes up to Casey and is like, hey, you got Ralph to fall in love with you. It's your fault. And it's like, what? So Ralph ends up going head over heels, one by one admitting to everybody in the house except for Casey that he has a crush. Lizzie and Edwin bring him to the closet and actually discuss it with him, which is so funny. We haven't been to the closet where they're plotting in such a long time, so it's kind of funny to see them doing that.
Well, I just want to say it's an honor to be invited to a family emergency.
They're all trying to get him to not have a crush on Casey, just so she can avoid letting him down. Everybody else is like, what do we do about this? And Casey's just like, I have no clue. Derek ends up trying to flip the script and help him reconnect with his ex, but his ex doesn't want to be with him anymore. Turns out he's going to break up with her. Oh my god. Yeah, so he breaks up with his girlfriend just to try to be with Casey. So they actually have Casey try to become super disgusting and detract him. Whatever the term is for making somebody unattracted to you. And it doesn't work. Obviously, she looks so much better to him than ever before, and he's even more smitten. I can't believe how random this plotline is. I cannot get over it. So yeah, Derek and Casey just get more and more angry at each other because this is not working out. Casey ends up turning his back on Ralph, and it is not working out. Like, he is clearly fallen out of love with her. So later, Derek ends up getting the two together, and they make up. So thank God Ralphie is not after Casey anymore. All around, just such a funny departure from the normal Life with Derek episode structure. Like, having Ralphie be the center point of it all is so funny, but still stirring up drama within the kids and the entire family. Nora giving him advice in that scene earlier was even funnier. Like, what are they supposed to do about this situation? And at least Derek and Casey aren't fighting so much in this episode. This episode does a really good job at just being a filler episode where it doesn't really matter what grade they're in, what their relationships are like. It's just convenient to just have everybody be against Ralph in this. It's so funny too, the way it works out. All around good episode, and I'm excited that they got one of these put into the final season of the show. The next episode is one that many have warned me about. It's called Tuesday Afternoon Fever. It's episode 13 of season 4, and yeah, Life with Derek crosses a line with this one, but not as much as you would think. So basically, there's a talent competition going on at Derek and Casey's school. Apparently, it's like a Dancing with the Stars type show. I don't know. I don't even know why they're going to high schoolers to do this.
We have had a record number of entrants. And one chicken.
But this is Casey's big opportunity because she loves to dance. Immediately, her excitement entices Derek to actually involve himself in the dance as well. Oh my gosh, what? So the school has auditions for the 4 people that will be in the competition, and Casey ends up doing it with a really awkwardly short dance. I feel like every time I see Casey dance, it's not that fun. It's like majestic for no reason. Like, I don't know, it just kills the vibe for me. And guess who else gets accepted? Derek. Yeah, I don't know why Derek has a really weird improv dance performance with his hockey gear on, and guess the judge decides she wants Derek to be a part of it too, so it's kind of crazy. So now Derek is partnered up with the other girl that won, and Casey's partnered up with the other guy that won. In the B plot, Lizzie is cracking down on the boys of the family, being like, you guys need to eat healthier. So Edwin and George do a bet with her that says they're gonna quit junk food, and if they don't, they're gonna dye their hair purple. Oh my god, that sounds exactly like the Drake and Josh episode where they dye their hair purple. But you know what, let's not get into that. They end up getting caught pretty quickly, and Lizzie gives them a break, saying that if they could go a week without junk food and actually exercising, that they won't have to dye their hair. Good luck, guys. Derek ends up embarrassing his partner But he finds out that she's actually taking this super seriously and won't just go on a date with him. So automatically, it's a problem. She ends up quitting and going for Casey's partner, pretty much eliminating her from the competition. And whew, this apparently is gone way too far. The entire family has an intervention against Derek, giving him the silent treatment.
We're all giving you the silent treatment. Starting now.
Because this has crossed a line. Apparently Casey's always wanted to be a dancer, and this is making it way too bad. So they show him a scrapbook, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna have to make this up to Casey. So he goes up to Casey and does the only thing that would actually get her to forgive him, which is being her dance partner. Oh my God, yeah, there wasn't enough tension in this household. So Casey and Derek become partners, and of course, Derek is not taking this seriously, with Casey having to really crack down on him. Later, we get to the actual competition, and for some reason, the family can watch this on TV, which is kind of exciting. It's like a televised event, and the other couple ends up doing such a great job that they are just terrified. We learn that George actually did have to dye his hair purple, and Edwin got away with brushing it out, which is kind of crazy. Derek and Casey end up coming through with this whole zombie routine, which actually makes Derek look like a pretty good dancer. I feel like the actor of Derek must have been good. And yeah, they end up beating the competition. Thank God, because I was not expecting that. Derek ends up pulling through for Casey, and it's actually pretty sweet. I like that they actually have a win throughout this one. It's nice to see them get along sometimes. So yeah, all in all, a very nerve-wracking episode for me, because I was just hoping they didn't cross any lines, and I don't think any lines were crossed this time. I feel like it was definitely a platonic partnership. Having them dance together was definitely something I was worried about. All around good episode though. Definitely nice to see the competition being taken down. And at the very end, Ralph does his own dance routine, only to collapse on top of Derek, which is kind of a weird ending. Okay, whatever. Tuesday Afternoon Fever, that's what it was. The next episode is called No More Games, episode 14, and this one is interesting because we've had so many episodes in season 1 and 2 about games and competition and just how the Venturis and McDonald's never quite get along, and this is like almost bringing back that old storyline, but giving it a new twist now that they're a lot older. So Casey is signing up for an extracurricular activity, but rock climbing is taken by Derek, so she's forced to do fencing with, of course, Truman, the guy who rates girls all across the board, and so she and Emily have to do fencing. I don't know why out of all sports, fencing is the one that keeps showing up in kids' sitcoms. Like, it makes me think there's a lot of old age adult writers doing this, because we had the Fence and Bensons from iCarly, and now we're doing it again in Life with Derek. It's such a specific sport to call back to. Meanwhile, George brings a ping pong table into the household as if it wasn't crazy and chaotic enough, triggering Derek and Edwin to start doing a whole bunch of ping pong games. And Derek is such a sore loser, he pretty much either loses to Edwin and claims that he's cheating, or turns the tables on a bunch of different rules that actually would make Edwin lose. So it's really not fair. He constantly is losing.
Prepare to lose.
Please. I was born ready to lose.
Meanwhile, Casey finally takes on fencing, and Emily does not want to be her partner because she's interested in this guy, having Casey be stuck with Truman. And you'll see in the future that as these guys develop as a couple, it's not really fair that Emily ditches her in this point. This is horrible. So yeah, while the competition spreads in all layers of the family, just Edwin and Derek, and then Casey and Truman, it seems like this is never going to end. Nora tries to talk to George about this competition, and he just is like, no, this is good for the family, and I guess we don't resolve that at all, so yeah, just continues. Truman consistently tries to ask out Casey, which is not cool. Like, she said no multiple times, throughout multiple episodes, mind you, and this just never seems to end. I'm gonna talk about this larger conversation about consent, and yeah, Derek and Casey have had like some boundary issues before, sure, but ignoring Daisy and looking at Casey and Truman's relationship, I think that is the most problematic I've ever seen throughout this series. Like, as fencing goes on, Truman ends up poking Casey in the butt, and she gets kicked out of the club, which is really not fair, but I guess Casey just doesn't bring that up to the faculty, so they don't crack down on it. I don't know, it's a really weird gray area. So she's basically kicked out of the club until she's asked to get back into the club, which Truman's also able to get back into, and oh my gosh. So she trains a lot to get better at fencing and take him down, which is kind of cool, and until we find out later that Casey isn't actually above losing. She is even telling Edwin to stand up for himself against Derek, so it seems like the stakes are raised.
Choose your weapon.
Spatula.
On guard.
Olé!
When Casey and Truman finally get into a fencing match, it becomes a lot of flirting, honestly, and it's really uncomfortable because, you know, this guy is just raiding girls and now it's gone off the radar. Meanwhile, Edwin and Derek finally have a breaking point where Edwin actually stands up to him and is like, no, I'm done with this, and breaks the ping pong table. Only to find out that Derek was testing Edwin all along and he was waiting for him to stand up for himself, which I don't believe. Honestly, they've done that plotline before, so okay, Derek, sure. Meanwhile, Casey and Truman end up going on a date after this really awkward fencing competition, which even the teacher points out is inappropriate. And so, honestly, the circumstances this has happened is not cool. I can't believe that Casey is actually interested in Truman as much as she is, and this is just pushing a line that I did not want to cross. So that's no more games for you. The Truman and Casey relationship continue in episode 15, Teddy's Back. And can you remember who Teddy is? Because I couldn't when I saw the name of the episode. I was like, who the heck is Teddy?
That is one fine-looking salad, Nora. No, I know you're short-handed with your husband away on business, so, I'd be happy to set the table.
That's awfully sweet of you, but who are you?
Oh, I'm Teddy.
But I did remember that it's the guy who turns his back on Derek and actually ties him to a chair. He's Edwin's friend and honestly just a nuisance. He comes in throughout this episode and is just trying to hang out with Edwin, Lizzie, or Marty, and in a weird way too. He's just like, you're my family, like I just want to stay around here, despite the fact he was in like one episode. So the family keeps pawning him off to different people so they don't have to worry about him.
We need to do something about Teddy. He won't leave me alone. He says I'm the best friend he never had.
He says I'm the cute little sister he never had. He says he wants to marry me.
Eventually allowing him to land in Derek's lap. Yeah, turns out this is exactly what Teddy wanted. He wanted to take Edwin's spot as Derek's assistant, so good for him, I guess. Meanwhile, Casey's the A-plot, so we should probably focus on her. Casey finally said yes to going on a date with Truman, so it seems pretty official. He's excited because obviously he said a million times he's gonna take her out, and despite her saying no, she finally caved, and she seems excited about it, but how excited can she be? I mean, the playful banter of saying no constantly is not appropriate. She's excited to see what he really has up his sleeve because he's like, I'm gonna take you on the perfect date. And it turns out to be not the perfect date. Yeah, the next morning when Casey and Emily are talking, it turns out he sent a cab for her, they went rock climbing, and everything was so awkward and imperfect, it almost angered her. The next day we find out that that was just a prank, and the real date is about to happen next, which, oh my god, I can't believe Truman thought he could get away with that. Like, not only has he been trying for like months to get her to go out, but now he's like not even keeping to his word. This guy is just red flag central for me, honestly. In the meantime, all the family that isn't involved in the Casey plotline is plotting against Teddy because they just don't know what to do about him. Soon he becomes Derek's loyal partner and doing everything for him, almost making Edwin jealous. Oh my gosh. So yeah, Edwin can't even go into his room unless he's Teddy. With Derek actually being so impressed with how subordinate he is, I guess he's just willing to keep Teddy around. He even shows Teddy his famous trophy, which actually means a lot to him. And then you're like, oh no. So Teddy ends up stealing this trophy, oh my gosh, and locking Derek in his room, just turning on him once again. And we're like, oh my gosh, this kid is such an evil mastermind. Meanwhile, Casey is giving Truman a third chance, which is kind of crazy. He takes her on the date that she actually wanted. She got to plan it, everything was perfect, and it turns out that was a prank on him. What? Yeah, so Casey didn't actually want to do all the stuff she did. She just pranked him and got him to go on a date that she planned, which I guess she's not actually a romantic. I don't really know how I'm following this, but yeah, these guys are going back and forth in the worst ways. I'm just happy we get to see the front of the house. I feel like I've never seen Casey stand outside the front of the house. So they end up being together and never going on an actual good date, and that's just how the episode ends, with Derek actually turning his back on Teddy in the last moment, and it's kind of impressive how he was able to predict all this. Everybody turns against Teddy. And by the end, it's kind of like a family working together. I like that it came out really positive. All around a good episode, except for the whole Truman issue, which does not get resolved in this episode. Surprise, surprise. Episode 16 is Truman's last chance, which is kind of crazy because he's had 5 last chances so far. But we gotta talk about Casey's demeanor because honestly, it's very unhealthy that she's growing up to have this relationship. I can't think that this is a normal situation. Like, it's definitely definitely turning against like consent that we've learned as we grew up past the 2000s, and to think that this was normal to like woo over a girl way back when by asking multiple times, like trying different things out, and then sometimes the girl's like comfortable playing along by pushing them away just to invite them back in. Like, it's a lot of awkward reverse psychology that just results in toxic relationships that I feel like I'm only realizing rewatching this show now, that these kind of situations were normal back then, and we didn't think about them as much as we do now, making us realize that like maybe the ways we related to other people were based on saying yes and saying no to each other, as if there was like a power play. And that really bothers me when it comes to romantic relationships, because that's where it becomes an actual issue. Like, these are not family members, these are people that are taking advantage of you, and or you're taking advantage of them, and either way you guys are just toxic for each other. So don't do that, okay? This is a lesson in 2000s romance. Do not do that experience. But it's good that we actually can watch the show and realize that that is just so inappropriate, and that it's really important that when somebody says no, you actually step away from them, and if they really want to come back and want to initiate something, they're allowed to do that. Casey, on the other hand, has just never seeked out Truman. Truman has always asked her out, she's always said no, and then she's almost comfortable saying no after a while and allows that to be the relationship. And I am so frustrated with how that plays out. Especially in this episode, it's all about Casey wanting to go to this dance 2 hours north of where they live with Truman, and everybody else is like starting to spy on Truman throughout this episode, which I find appropriate. Casey and him are like starting to spend more time together, so it's fair that everybody is skeptical. Edwin questions him, Nora questions him, and he even admits to the family that he stole the principal's car, which is kind of crazy. This guy only seems worse and worse as it goes on. But you know what? Derek's a pretty bad person too, but this guy is like worse in a weird way. Meanwhile, Edwin also monitors Lizzie's dates, which are super inappropriate. I don't know why he's like on a fix-in to keep everybody healthy. It definitely leads it to be a funny situation, but all around, like, the mom is like not trusting Casey because it's almost like she's starting to act out at this point, which I agree. I like that she's naturally acting out in a way a teenage girl would at this age. At least it's authentic to the experience. Like, her and her mom never disagree, and now they are, which kind of makes a lot of sense. So she says that Casey can't go to this party unless Derek accompanies her. Oh my gosh, I was not expecting that. Derek reveals that he's not gonna get in her way, and he's not gonna actually go to the party, but he will drive her there. Okay, kind of interesting, Derek. They end up all going to the party and even invite the cousin Vicky, which is even crazier because once Vicky sees Truman, she realizes that she dated Truman already. Oh my god. So this is already toxic. And also, Truman just goes to hang out with his friends immediately, like not taking into account the fact that Casey drove 2 hours to get here, and like now they're not even hanging out together. I don't know how in love this guy could be with her if he's like never around her. It bothers me a lot. Derek ends up staying at the party, which does work out to everybody's benefit later. Truman ends up kissing Victoria. Oh my god. And Casey sees it, literally crying her eyes out, because as I would do too, like that's a horrible betrayal. When she tells Derek, he actually gives a little bit of sympathy and is like, okay, let's get out of here, which is really nice for him. I feel like it takes a lot to see him do something nice, but going up to Truman and actually like separating him and Vicky is really good. Like that's a good thing to do. Meanwhile, Casey calls him out and just exits the party, which is super admirable. They come back only to see Nora know she was right, and oh gosh, poor Casey, she was really betrayed. After all the chances she gave this guy Truman, yeah, never give him another chance again, guys. At least the family kind of gangs up on him too and calls him out over the phone. This episode is just horrible for Casey, and I feel so bad for her. At least even the Edwin and Lizzie thing isn't so bad. It's just awkward and embarrassing, but even Edwin knows when to butt out. He steps away from their date and allows Lizzie and her date to actually have some time together, which is actually nice. But I don't know, it's not only is Truman a bad person, but Casey's cousin is horrible too. Like, nobody's really looking like a good person in this episode. At least they're acknowledging it, but still, it's not right. This brings us to the second to last episode of the entire series, so things are really starting to wind down. The next episode is called Surprise, and I'll tell you what, there's a lot of surprises. So Casey is still not forgiving Truman for all of his bad behavior, which I wouldn't too. They went on like 5 dates, and 2 of them were really bad, and they're still for some reason talking about him. Now that prom is in the mix, senior prom, it seems like everybody's taking the situations more seriously. Casey can't really find a date, so she thinks that her and Emily should go together. Kind of a sweet gesture, and I really like that they're like actually taking it upon themselves to do this. Later, we find out, big surprise, that Nora and George are having another kid. Oh my gosh. They keep it a secret for later, and I'm just so ecstatic for them. It's so cool at the end of the show that you have like new surprises. Like, this is really interesting.
It's not that kind of an addition to our household.
And what? New appliance?
So at the dinner table, everybody is talking about how they're going to be going to prom. Casey couldn't get another date, which I kind of feel bad about. Like, even Sam wouldn't go with her because he's going with Kendra, which is Derek's ex. And I don't know why we're not talking about that. That should be a bigger deal. But yeah, it's sweet that Casey and Emily agree to go out with each other. But later, Derek asks out Emily to the prom, and you're like, oh, this must be to get back at Casey. But he actually expresses on multiple occasions that this is because he has a crush on her, which I have trouble believing. Didn't Sally just leave? And it seems like he's doing this just to mess with Casey until he pulls her into the closet and starts kissing her. Oh my gosh. So now this is a big secret from Casey because Emily doesn't want to ditch her to go to prom for Derek. And it's like, wow, Emily has to choose between Derek and Casey. That is such a crazy situation. Meanwhile, Derek is like really flirtatious with Emily, and it seems like he's just trying to pull this out of her because originally he didn't care who he was going with. Now suddenly he likes Emily. Like, I don't really buy that, but it seems like as an audience we're supposed to believe it because it kind of does get romantic between them, especially when Casey finds them in the closet. Oh my gosh. She's super uncomfortable, as I would be too, but she gets it because Emily's had a crush on him her whole life.
That concludes your CPR training for today.
So later, when it's time to go to prom, Casey decides not to go at all because she just cannot find a date. So Emily and Derek just wait in the living room for her, which is actually really nice and good friend of Emily. Derek tells Emily that he is her boyfriend, which is even crazier that he made this big of a turnaround. Like, at first he was not emotionally open to anybody, and now suddenly he's dating Emily. I don't really buy it. So they're trying to get Casey to go to the prom. Truman ends up showing up, which is crossing a line even further. Not only have they been rejected 5 times, but now they've been out of a relationship, and Derek actually talks Truman into taking her to prom, which I think is undoing the good deed he did the episode before that. This is honestly just going so off the rails. Like, why are we inviting Truman back into Casey's life given all the bad things he's done? It's almost like we've kind of regressed in a really bad way. And Derek inviting him also seems like it's a bad character moment on his part. All around, like, they fight throughout the whole night, and it's not enjoyable until Casey gives in and kisses him, and it's like, oh, I guess she's just going to forgive him for the convenience of it all. Okay, so they're back together, I guess, only to get home and be surprised by their parents to admit that they are having another kid. Everybody's super excited, and I feel great for them too. Everything except for Truman seems to be working out for everyone, leading us to the series finale, which is so sad to say considering, like, we've built up this show for so long now. The issues between Casey and Derek, and now the issues between Casey and Truman. It seems like it's all winding down in a bittersweet way, honestly. I don't even know how to approach this. Finally, we get the final episode, Season 4, Episode 18, Futuritis. And this is all about their graduation, and it's so nice that everything is winding down in a clear, concise way. Like, I love it when shows end on a graduation moment. It's such a staple of life that everybody goes through, so to see it, like, be a formal ending is really sweet. Derek, it turns out, is going to defer after this year and not go to college for a little bit, and he's really firm on this stance. With his dad not sure what to do, he keeps coming to Derek's room for advice, and it's so funny watching him just like assume Derek's the therapist. He has never invited this kind of energy in his life. People start egging on Derek like the principal, saying that like, you better not do a senior prank, and it's clear that he wasn't even considering doing that until the teacher said something, so it's kind of funny that he's even going through with this. Emily and him are dating, so it is true, it's actually supposed to be a commitment. I don't know where this happens, because vacation with Derek, they're not together, so it's definitely not meaningful. Really bothers me that they just threw this out. And yeah, Casey is just getting more nervous for her next year at college, which is so expected because she's always the neurotic one. She says goodbye to Paul, which is nice. I'm glad that we got an episode with Paul to say goodbye, because even though he like missed like 5 or 6 episodes total in this last season, I still am gonna miss him. He's like one of my favorite characters. The relationship of like a therapist, guidance counselor, and student is so sweet to me, and I love seeing them flourish. Like, they get one last hug goodbye, and Casey just starts freaking out.
As we stride, with confidence into the sunset, we wave farewell to Thompson High.
Throughout this episode, she keeps having like terrible visions of the future and like doesn't really know what to do with her life. She's the valedictorian, so she gets to give a speech at the end, which is super expected for Casey. I definitely saw that coming.
I have never been more scared in my entire life.
Casey, it's okay. Okay, your speech is very good. You're very relaxed. Picture yourself floating at sea.
Whoosh.
But I wish we'd talked about that earlier. Like, knowing she was the valedictorian definitely adds a lot of pressure on her life that would have been helpful to know before. Meanwhile, George is still freaking out about having a kid, and Marty is regressing to be the child once again. For some reason, Nora wears a really offensive, culturally appropriate kimono to their graduation. I don't know why she thinks she could be wearing this. And yeah, everything just gets kind of funnier for this episode. As everybody gathers in the gym, Casey realizes that her speech is not as genuine as she thought it was, and she's just as scared as being an adult as anybody else. So she makes her speech more about that and throws away the original one she had written, which is always working out for Casey. I feel like her whole plotline is to just not overthink things, and yeah, it worked out. At the last minute, when everybody cheers and everybody's happy, Edwin comes running in, which I was not expecting. He's trying to make his mark on the school before he comes in next year, and that's kind of cute. I love seeing that he gets to go throughout this school in a way that he never was before, because it was always Derek and Casey, and it leads the way to Derek's actual prank. Yeah, he did plan a prank. Oh my gosh. He has this giant tarp out of his own face and hijacks the entire graduation, which the principal doesn't even seem to mind. Like, he just gives him a fist bump. I don't know why that happens. It is the last thing Derek does in high school, which is fair because he can't get detention or anything. It's definitely worth doing a senior prank. Not that you guys asked my opinion, but you know, it is. And Derek just comes in one last time acting really cool. I like that ending, but it doesn't quite end there. It's one last conversation between the family at the dinner table, as they always do, and it's very sweet to have Derek and Casey in one last argument, but it turns out not to be one last argument, as they've both gotten into the same college. Oh my god, Life with Derek College Edition. I am not looking forward to whatever that ends up like. So yeah, this is where the show essentially ends. They're gonna have a new kid in the family while Casey and Derek are headed off to college, and it's very sweet and yet sad at the same time. I just hope Casey doesn't ever end up with Truman again. They have one final conversation in the kitchen, just Casey and Derek, as the show originally started, and it looks like it's about to get romantic in a way that it never has before. It's kind of funny though when you think about it, because it's like they're leaning into it at this point. All around, a final shot of the house, leading us to the proper conclusion of Life with Derek. Oh my god, that took forever. At least we got like a formal finale and got to see the characters off and end up in this like really funny loop of disagreement between Casey and Derek. Like, I can't believe it had to end that way as well. Super funny, and it makes me look forward to actually watching Vacation with Derek. So if you guys liked what you saw of me covering this show and had as much fun as I had, I would love for you guys to check in with this show in the future, because I have to get to that. All around, interesting experience. I feel like the sibling rivalry did go further than any other show did before. Like, you don't see Zach and Cody having romantic tension in the living room. No, that show did not do that. This show just pushed boundaries in really interesting ways, which is why there'll always be like a place in my heart for watching it. Like, it's just a genuine experience. So if you guys hadn't given this show a chance and you want to have fun, I guess watch this show. I still am giving it like a 6 out of 10. I cannot rate Life with Derek better than that, guys. It's just not funny. If it was just slightly more funny, you would get a better review from me, but it's not. It's like Zoe 101 in the sense that like it's just kind of dry and not a lot of humor, and this show is slightly better with its plot lines, but still nothing to keep me watching. So I'm sorry, everybody. That was Life with Derek, and this is Johnny 2000 signing off. For more 2000s content, TV, movies, music, and so much more, make sure to sign up for Johnny 2000, and until then, I'll see you guys next time.